Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Speak Smart podcast. Today, we're taking a deep dive into something you've specifically asked for, learning English with YouTube.
Right.
Yeah, so we've got a comprehensive guide here from experienced instructors who've cracked the code on using YouTube for language learning. So this is going to be like your crash course on maximizing YouTube to gain fluency quickly, but thoroughly.
What's really exciting is this guide goes beyond that usual watch videos and learn advice. We're going to be exploring tactics that leverage YouTube's unique features to create a personalized learning powerhouse for you.
I love that, a personalized learning powerhouse.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's jump right in. I think we all know YouTube is great for, pretty much anything these days.
Yeah.
But what makes it such a good fit, specifically for language learning?
Well, YouTube's format naturally addresses some of the biggest hurdles people face when learning a new language.
Yeah.
For example, traditional classes can be inflexible, textbooks can feel overwhelming, and just finding the time to practice consistently can be a real challenge.
Right.
But with YouTube, you have access to these bite-sized lessons, available anytime, anywhere.
So it really fits into your life instead of you having to rearrange your whole schedule around learning.
Precisely. And because the lessons are often short and focused, it's easier to digest new information without feeling overloaded. This aligns perfectly with that little and often approach that's so effective for language learning.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. It's like having a mini English lesson on demand, whenever and wherever you need it. But wouldn't it be easy to just zone out like we sometimes do when we're watching videos for fun?
That's where the interactivity comes in. YouTube gives you complete control over the pace. You can rewind if you miss something, slow down the playback speed to catch every nuance, or pause to take notes. This turns what could be a passive activity into an active learning experience.
I love that it's like having your own personal rewind button for those times when your brain needs a moment to catch up. Okay, speaking of specific channels, how do you even begin to choose? Yeah. From the millions out there, it can feel a bit overwhelming.
Yeah, it's about being discerning and finding channels that match your needs and learning style. First and foremost, prioritize clarity, especially if you're a beginner or intermediate learner. You need instructors who speak clearly and at a pace you can follow.
Makes sense. It's already challenging enough to understand a new language, so a host with a strong accent or who speaks too quickly could make it even harder.
Exactly. And equally important is content variety. Look for channels that offer a good mix of grammar lessons, vocabulary, building pronunciation tips, and even insights into English-speaking cultures.
Oh, that's cool.
This well-rounded approach will help you develop your skills in a more holistic way.
It's like creating a balanced diet for your English learning journey. You don't want to just survive on grammar alone. You want to savor all the flavors the language has to offer.
I love that analogy. And don't discount the importance of finding channels that genuinely engage you. Does the host teaching style resonate with you? Is the content presented in a way that keeps you coming back for more?
Right, it's about finding that spark. That makes learning feel less like a chore and more like something you actually look forward to. So, you mentioned learning styles earlier. What are some ways I can figure out what channels would be a good fit for me personally?
Think about how you learn best in other areas of your life. Are you a visual learner who thrives on images and diagrams? Look for channels that incorporate those elements. Do you prefer detailed explanations? Find instructors who break down concepts step by step.
So it's about paying attention to what clicks for you, and then seeking out channels that align with those preferences. But wouldn't it be easier to just find one perfect channel and stick with it?
It's actually beneficial to subscribe to several channels that offer different approaches and styles. This keeps things interesting and helps you discover new ways of learning that you might not have considered before.
It's like having a team of English coaches, each with their own unique expertise and training methods. Okay, speaking of training, let's talk about some of the specific tools YouTube has that can really amplify our learning.
Absolutely. Let's start with subtitles. These are a game changer, especially for beginners. Watching videos with subtitles can help you follow along, connect the spoken words to the written form, and pick up new vocabulary.
I know I personally find subtitles incredibly helpful when watching movies or TV shows in English. It's like having a built-in translator. That helps you bridge the gap between what you hear and what you understand.
Exactly. And as you get more comfortable, you can challenge yourself by turning the subtitles off and testing your listening comprehension. Then if you get stuck, you can always turn them back on to clarify what you missed.
That's a great strategy. It's like having training wheels that you can gradually remove as you gain confidence. Now, what about those times when native speakers talk so fast, It's like they're speaking a secret code.
Don't worry, YouTube has a solution for that too. The playback speed feature is your secret weapon against fast talkers. Simply slow down the video to a pace that you're comfortable with. You can even pause and rewind specific sections to really dissect what's being said.
That's a lifesaver. I use the playback speed feature all the time, even for videos in my native language. It's amazing how much clearer things become when you slow them down just a little bit. But what if I want to learn something very specific, like how to order food in a restaurant or understand common English idioms?
Playlists are your best friend in those situations. Many YouTube creators curate playlists on specific topics, like beginner English, English for travel, or common English idioms. It's like having a personalized curriculum tailored to your exact needs.
It's like having a digital tutor who has handpicked the best videos to help you master specific skills. What are some other advantages of using Playlighting for learning?
Playlists provide a sense of structure and progression. Instead of jumping randomly between videos, you can follow a curated path that gradually builds your knowledge and skills.
It's like having a roadmap for your English learning journey, guiding you from point A to point B with clear milestones along the way. This is all fantastic, but I have a confession. Sometimes I start with great intentions, watch a few videos, and then life gets in the way, and I lose momentum. So how do we move from these sporadic YouTube binges to a consistent learning routine?
That's a challenge we all face. Consistency is key, and it often comes down to creating a plan and treating your English learning like any other important appointment.
So it's not enough to just say, I'm going to watch some English videos this week. We need to get specific and schedule it in.
Exactly. Think about your week and identify pockets of time where you can consistently dedicate even just 15 minutes to learning. Maybe it's during your commute, your lunch break, or right before bed.
That's encouraging to hear. Even just 15 minutes a day can make a difference.
Absolutely, especially if you're using that time effectively. The key is to be intentional and treat those 15 minutes as sacred learning time. Minimize distractions, put your phone on silent, and really focus on the task at hand.
So no multitasking while watching English lessons. No checking emails or scrolling through social media.
Ideally not. The more focused you are during those 15 minutes, the more you'll absorb and retain. But it's not just about finding the time, it's about using that time strategically.
What do you mean by that? How can we make the most of our English learning sessions on YouTube?
Think of it like creating a mini lesson plan for yourself. Choose a specific topic you want to focus on, whether it's grammar, vocabulary, pronunciation, or something else.
Okay, so let's say I want to improve my understanding of English idioms.
Yeah.
How would I approach that using YouTube?
You could start by searching for a playlist specifically on English idioms, then before you even hit play. Think about what you want to achieve during this session. Do you want to learn 5 new idioms? Do you want to be able to understand them in context?
So it's like setting a mini goal for yourself before each session to keep yourself focused and motivated.
Exactly. And once you have your goal in mind, choose a video from the playlist and really engage with it. Take notes, rewind sections you find difficult, and try to use the idioms in your own sentences.
It's like turning passive watching into an active learning experience, where you're not just absorbing information, but actively processing and applying it.
Precisely. And as you continue working through the playlist, track your progress. Did you meet your goal for each session? Are you starting to understand and use idioms more naturally?
It's like those progress bars in video games that show you how far you've come and motivate you to keep going.
Exactly. And don't forget to celebrate your wins no matter how small. Did you successfully use a new idiom in conversation? Give yourself a pat on the back. Did you understand a whole video without subtitles? That's worth celebrating.
Those little victories can make a big difference in terms of motivation and confidence. And speaking of confidence, let's talk about what to do when we hit those inevitable roadblocks. Because let's be honest, learning a new language can be frustrating at times.
You're absolutely right. There will be times when you feel stuck, confused, or even a little discouraged. But the key is to remember that setbacks are a normal part of the learning process.
So what can we do when we hit those moments of frustration? Do we just power through and hope for the best?
There are a few things that can help. First, don't be afraid to take a break. Sometimes stepping away from the material for a while can give you a fresh perspective when you return.
It's like hitting the pause button on a video game when things get too intense. You can always come back and pick up where you left off when you're feeling refreshed.
Exactly. And when you do come back, try approaching the material from a different angle. If you're struggling with a grammar concept, maybe try watching a different video that explains it in a way that resonates with you.
So it's about experimenting with different teaching styles and finding what works best for you.
And don't underestimate the power of community. If you're feeling stuck, reach out to other English learners online or in person. Share your struggles, ask for advice, and learn from their experiences.
It's like having a support system that understands what you're going through and can offer encouragement and guidance. This is all great advice. But I have to ask, are there any specific YouTube features or strategies that can help us overcome common challenges, like improving our pronunciation or expanding our vocabulary?
Absolutely. And that's what we'll dive into in our next segment. Get ready to unlock even more of YouTube's potential for language learning.
All right, sounds good. We'll be right back after a short break.
Welcome back to Speak Smart. So we're diving deeper into the world of learning English with YouTube. And this time, we're all about tackling those tricky areas that can really make a difference in your fluency.
Okay, so I've got our playlist lined up. Our learning routine is taking shape. We're feeling motivated. But what about those specific areas where a lot of English language learners struggle, like pronunciation and vocabulary? Can YouTube really help with those?
Absolutely. Let's start with pronunciation. There's this misconception that once you're past a certain age, your accent is set in stone. But that's simply not true. With focused effort and the right techniques, you can absolutely refine your pronunciation at any stage.
That's reassuring to hear. Because I know a lot of people, myself included, can feel a bit self-conscious about their accent. It's like that little voice in your head saying, oh no, everyone's going to know I'm not a native speaker.
I understand that feeling completely. But here's the thing, pronunciation isn't about erasing your accent entirely. It's about clarity and ensuring that you're understood. And YouTube can be an incredibly powerful tool for achieving that.
So how do we use YouTube to work on our pronunciation? Are there specific types of channels or videos we should be looking for?
There are channels dedicated specifically to English pronunciation, and these can be fantastic resources. They often break down the sounds of English in detail, showing you the correct mouth and tongue positioning and providing lots of practice exercises.
It's like having a virtual speech therapist, guiding you through each sound and helping you train your mouth to make those sometimes tricky English sounds.
Precisely. And the beauty of these videos is that you can practice at your own pace, rewind as many times as you need, and even record yourself to compare your pronunciation to the instructors.
That's a great tip. I never thought about recording myself as a way to track my progress. It's like having a personal pronunciation coach right in my pocket. But with so many channels to choose from, how do we know which ones are really good?
Look for instructors who are clear and engaging and use a variety of techniques to explain pronunciation concepts. Some might use diagrams, animations, or even slow motion videos to show how the mouth moves to create different sounds.
So it's not just about listening, it's about really seeing how the sounds are made. It's like those anatomy diagrams that show you the inner workings of the human body.
Exactly. And as with any learning resource, it's about finding instructors whose teaching style resonates with you, someone who makes you feel comfortable and confident in your ability to improve.
It's like finding the right personal trainer for your voice. But it's not all about those dedicated pronunciation channels, right? Can we also work on our pronunciation using other types of YouTube content?
Absolutely. This is where things get really interesting. One incredibly powerful technique is called shadowing.
Shadowing? I've heard of that, but I'm not quite sure how it works.
It's quite simple, actually. You choose a short audio or video clip from a YouTube video that you enjoy, something with clear, natural speech. Then you listen with headphones and try to imitate the speaker's pronunciation and intonation in real time.
So it's like you're speaking along with the speaker, trying to match their rhythm and cadence as closely as possible. It's like being their vocal shadow.
Precisely. And while it might feel a bit strange at first, shadowing is incredibly effective for training your ear and your mouth to produce the sounds of English more accurately.
It's like a workout for your tongue and vocal cords.
Exactly. And as you practice shadowing, you'll start to notice subtle nuances in the way native speakers pronounce words and phrases. Things you might not have picked up on just by listening passively.
That's amazing. It's like you're absorbing the natural flow and rhythm of the language through osmosis. But what if you're not quite ready for real-time shadowing? Is there a way to ease into it?
Of course. Start with short, simple phrases and gradually work your way up to longer, more complex sentences. You can also slow down the playback speed if needed, just like when you're working on individual sounds.
It's a great tip. It's about setting yourself up for success by starting small and building your skills gradually. And speaking of building skills, let's talk about vocabulary. I think we all know that having a wide vocabulary is crucial for fluency. But where does YouTube fit into the picture?
YouTube is an absolute goldmine for expanding your vocabulary. But it's not just about watching any random video and hoping to pick up a few new words. It's about being strategic and using YouTube's features to your advantage.
So what's the best way to go about it? Should we be writing down every new word we hear?
Not necessarily. While it's great to make note of unfamiliar words, it's more effective to focus on specific topics and contexts that are relevant to your goals and interests.
So for example, if I'm planning a trip to an English-speaking country, I could focus on vocabulary related to travel, transportation, and sightseeing.
Exactly. Search for videos on those topics, make note of the words and phrases you don't know. Look up their definitions and try to use them in your own sentences. The key is to learn vocabulary in context, as this makes it more meaningful and memorable.
It's like the difference between reading a dictionary definition and actually using the word in a real-life conversation. One feels abstract and easily forgotten, while the other creates a lasting connection in your brain.
That's a perfect analogy, and YouTube allows you to do just that. Learn and practice vocabulary in real-world contexts through engaging videos that bring the language to life.
It's like having a personal vocabulary tutor who tailors each lesson to your specific interests and needs. But it's not just about individual words, right? What about those phrases and expressions that make English sound so natural and idiomatic?
You're absolutely right. Idioms, phrasal verbs, colloquialisms, these are the building blocks of fluent, natural-sounding English, and YouTube is a fantastic resource for learning them.
So how do we go about mastering those tricky idioms and expressions? Are there any specific techniques we can use on YouTube?
One of the best ways to learn idioms is to hear them used in context. So as you're watching videos on topics that interest you, pay close attention to how native speakers use these expressions.
So it's not just about memorizing lists of idioms. It's about understanding how they're actually used in conversation.
Exactly. And YouTube provides a wealth of authentic examples. You can watch interviews, vlogs, comedy shows, even news broadcasts. All of these will expose you to real-life language in action.
It's like being a fly on the wall, eavesdropping on real conversations and absorbing the natural rhythms and nuances of the language. But how do we make sure those idioms and expressions stick in our memory? Because they can be so tricky to remember.
Here's where you can get creative. One technique is to create your own flashcards. Write the idiom or expression on one side and the meaning and an example sentence on the other.
Flashcards. It feels like I'm back in elementary school. But I can see how they could be helpful for language learning. It's a simple but effective way to review and test yourself.
Exactly. And when you're reviewing your flashcards, try to say the idioms out loud, paying attention to your pronunciation and intonation. You can even record yourself to check your progress.
It's like turning those flashcards into a mini pronunciation workout. But what about those times when we come across an idiom or expression that we're not quite sure how to use?
Don't be afraid to ask for help. YouTube's comment sections can be a valuable resource for this. You can ask other learners or even the video creator for clarification or examples.
It's like having a built-in study group right at your fingertips. And speaking of community, what are some other ways we can use YouTube to connect with other learners and practice our English?
That's a great question, and we'll explore that in more detail in our next segment. We'll uncover some hidden gems on YouTube that can take your English learning to the next level.
Welcome back to the Speak Smart podcast. We've been having a blast exploring the world of learning English with YouTube. I'm so excited to uncover even more of these hidden gems and power user tips in this final segment.
You know, one of the things that often gets overlooked is the sheer power of YouTube's search function. It's so much more than just typing in Learn English. Think about it. You have access to this vast library of knowledge tailored to your specific interests and needs.
Right. So instead of just casting this wide net, we can get laser focused with our searches to find exactly what we're looking for.
Precisely. Let's say you're struggling with phrasal verbs. Instead of just searching generally, try something like phrasal verbs explained for intermediate learners or common phrasal verbs used in business English. That way you'll get results that are much more targeted to your level and goals.
Oh, that's a good tip. It's like having a personal librarian who can guide you to the exact resources you need. And speaking of resources, I know we tend to think of YouTube as a platform for videos, but can we also find other types of content that can help us learn English?
Absolutely. Don't forget that YouTube is also a treasure trove of audio content. Think podcasts, audiobooks, lectures, talks, all sorts of things that can help you immerse yourself in the language.
That's brilliant. I love that I can listen to these while I'm commuting or working out, or even doing chores around the house. It's like sneaking in extra English practice throughout the day.
Exactly. And listening to different types of audio content exposes you to a variety of accents, speaking styles, and vocabulary. It's like giving your ears a workout and training them to understand English in all its diverse forms.
Now, we've talked a lot about watching and listening, but what about speaking? How can we use YouTube to actively practice our spoken English beyond just shadowing and repeating?
Remember those comment sections we talked about earlier? They can be much more than just a place to leave a quick, great video. Think of them as opportunities to engage in real conversations with other English learners from all over the world.
Yeah, I have to admit, I sometimes hesitate to write in comment sections because I'm afraid of making mistakes, especially in grammar.
I understand that feeling, but it's important to remember that everyone in those comment sections is there to learn and improve. Making mistakes is part of the process.
That's true. We're all in this together, and we can learn from each other's mistakes as well.
Exactly. And the beauty of online communication is that it's relatively low pressure. You can take your time to compose your thoughts, check your grammar, and even use online tools to help you express yourself clearly.
So it's a safe space to experiment with the language and get feedback from other learners and even native speakers.
Precisely. And who knows, you might even make some new friends along the way. Speaking of making new friends, there are also YouTube channels dedicated to connecting English learners for conversation practice.
That's amazing. It's like having a virtual language exchange partner right at your fingertips.
Exactly. Some channels organize live events while others offer forums or chat groups where learners can connect and practice their speaking skills.
I love that. This is all so inspiring. I'm starting to see YouTube not just as a platform for watching videos, but as a vibrant community where I can connect with other learners, get support, and practice my English in a fun and engaging way.
That's exactly the mindset we want to cultivate. And here's another power user tip that might surprise you. Don't be afraid to watch videos in English on topics you already know a lot about.
Wait, what? Why would I watch something I already know? Wouldn't that be boring?
It might sound counterintuitive, but hear me out. When you watch a video on a familiar topic, your brain doesn't have to work as hard to understand the content. This frees up mental energy to focus on the language itself, the vocabulary, the grammar, the pronunciation, the flow of speech.
Ooh, I see. It's like taking a break from learning mode and just enjoying the experience of listening to English being spoken naturally, without the pressure of trying to understand complex new information.
Exactly. It's like immersing yourself in the sounds and rhythms of the language, letting it wash over you and seep into your subconscious.
So for example, if I'm a huge fan of cooking, I could watch cooking shows in English, even if I've already seen similar shows in my native language.
Precisely. You'll be amazed at how much you pick up on when you're not focused on deciphering the content itself. And speaking of content, YouTube is a fantastic resource for exploring different English-speaking cultures.
Oh, that's a great point. It's not just about learning the language. It's about understanding the people and cultures behind it.
Exactly. You can watch documentaries, travel vlogs, interviews with people from different English-speaking countries, all sorts of things that can give you a glimpse into how English is used in real-world contexts.
It's like taking a virtual trip around the world, immersing yourself in different accents, customs, and perspectives.
And as you become more familiar with different cultures, you'll start to notice the subtle ways in which language reflects those cultural differences. This can be a fascinating aspect of language learning, and YouTube provides endless opportunities for exploration.
This has been such an incredible deep dive. I feel like I've gone from being a casual YouTube user to a power user, armed with a whole toolkit of strategies to maximize my English learning journey.
I'm so glad to hear that. Remember, learning a new language is a journey, not a destination. There will be ups and downs, moments of frustration, and moments of triumph. But the most important thing is to keep going, keep experimenting, and keep having fun with it.
That's the best advice of all. Thank you so much for sharing your expertise with us today. This has been truly eye-opening.
It's been my pleasure.
And to all of you listening, thank you for joining us on the Speak Smart podcast. Keep exploring, keep learning, and keep speaking smart. And don't forget to subscribe to our channel, hit that like button, and leave us a comment below. We love hearing from you. Until next time, happy learning.